everyone. For those of you who do not know, my name is Jennifer Rispoli and I am married to Pastor Dave. I'm about as surprised to be filming this as you are to hear me talking, but I do want to take a moment to talk about the many blessings in my life. Of course, Dave has been a blessing, but also all of you a joy. I may not talk much, but I do want to let you all know that you are loved and I feel blessed to be a part of the Joy community. I also feel blessed financially and have been asked to share my tithing story, so here it goes. My tithing journey started when I was a child. For as long as I can remember, my parents tithed weekly. They modeled tithing, not just throwing a few dollars in the basket. It was just something that was done, so it has always been on my radar. Fast forward to college, I went to church, but I did not give. In the midst of racking up school debt and working on the weekends, my focus was more on having money to cover basic expenses and decrease the loans I would have to take out to pay for school. I did not feel like the few dollars I could give were really noteworthy, so why give anything at all? Fast forward to graduating and getting my first big girl job, and my mom sent me an email documenting the steps to financial success. She is an accountant and it is just in her blood. She can't help herself. The first thing she had on the list was to tithe 10%. She included a little note that said this was the only area in the Bible that God said, "Test me on this," and that she attributes many positive things in her life to tithing. She said that even when times were tough and she didn't really know how things were going to shake out, it was amazing to see how God always came through. The list went on to talk about savings, investments, etc., but first and foremost on the list was tithing. However, I was looking at a car loan, mortgage, 6 figures of school debt, and just over a year after I graduated, I added a baby to the mix. I would occasionally throw some money in the offering at church, but I can assure you it was not consistent and far from 10%. I was of the mind that something was better than nothing, and that one day when I had greater financial stability and discretionary income to spend, that I would begin to tithe at that time. In other words, when it became easy, I would be all in. Well, don't we all know that life is never easy? Less than 2 years after Austin was born, I found out that my husband at the time was having an affair. I was looking at being a single full-time working mother without any family in the area, and I knew I was in a world of trouble. On top of this, I knew I was going to be looking at thousands of dollars of lawyer fees. It was at this time that I decided it was a great time to start tithing. Within a month of discovering the affair, I said to myself, I'm going to test God, and I committed to tithing 10% of my income. I will spare you all the details, but throughout the 1.5 year long divorce process, I was never not able to pay the bills or put food on the table. It was truly amazing to see all the random things happen. Random gifts from patients, a bonus at work, this item I needed on sale right at the time I needed it, a random stranger who repaired my car free of charge with the only instruction to pass it on to someone else in need. I could go on. The end result is that I actually ended up with more in my bank account at the end of my divorce than I did at the beginning. It wasn't a lot more, but technically I ended up with more than I started with. That whole experience really showed me the way that God blesses us when we do as He has instructed us to do. So I continued to tithe because I certainly was not going to turn my back on Him now after He had been with me through that whole mess. Now let's fast forward to a Bible study class here at Joy a few years ago. I don't remember if it was Karen Sumner or Sandy Dixon, but one of them made a comment about how their dad, Pastor Bayman, challenged his congregation throughout the years to tithe beyond the 10%. He said, if you can do it, great. If you can't, that's okay. And maybe you can only go above and beyond for a month or a year, but it is something God will surely bless you for doing when you trust Him with your finances. Well, I thought to myself, if God has been this good to me at 10%, how many more ways will I see Him show up if I give beyond 10%? So from that point forward, I have tithed above 10%. I started out at 11% and have increased beyond that every year since then. I can without a doubt tell you that I have seen this small increase on my end result in huge blessings from God's end. I saw my PT colleague struggle and subsequently close his practice. I have seen nothing but growth and financial blessings from the beginning with my own practice. I fully attribute this to God and not from anything I have done on my own. I honestly do not worry about money. I know that everything will be okay. If ever I doubt, I look in the rearview mirror and it becomes abundantly clear that God blesses those who tithe. I'm not gonna lie, those first checks you write can be kind of scary, especially if you are in a precarious financial situation. I get it, I've been there. I literally started tithing as my husband was walking out on me in a future about as uncertain as it can get. But I can assure you, God will not use your obedience against you. Once you start, your life will be changed forever, and you will write those checks with joy instead of worry.